What's up, everybody, and welcome to Growing Up Gaming, your weekly podcast where we meet a new person of the internet to discuss their childhood with gaming and how it inspired their lives today. My name is Mitch Power. Again, thank you guys so much for returning each and every week to the show. Hope you're subscribing there on iTunes or Google Play, or you're got a subscription on Spotify, however that works, or maybe checking us out on YouTube, which if you're checking me out any of those methods, I greatly appreciate it. This week on the show, we have our guest. His name is Edward Varnell. I met this man on Twitter through probably Nintendo Guru. Yeah, Nintendo Guru. He was the one who linked us up and everything. So he was nice enough to be on the show and share some very different opinions than I was expecting and everything. Like, wait till you hear what he says was the worst game he ever bought with his own money. So I was shocked, but to each their own. Everybody's going to have their own opinion, so we'll see what people have to say. If you guys want to be on the show just like he was, go ahead and send me a tweet at MitchPower1116 on Twitter, or at the podcast Twitter page, which is at GUG Podcast on Twitter. Without further ado, let's get things started with Edward Varnell. Do you remember what initially got you started playing games? Was it a family member? Was it a friend? Was it some awesome commercial you saw on TV about an old console? Like, what initially got you started?
Actually, I think it was my mom that got me started, and my dad. They had a Atari 2600 in their room. So, I went in, the first game I played was Pac-Man, for it. And that's the one when it was just all a blue screen in the back and it was yellow. Like, it was super basic. And and I just continued to play that game and start loving it. And then when I was going to Six Flags Great America with my mom, because my dad never went, I would always go to like the pizza shop and they would have arcades. And so I would play like the arcades there. When I go to the mall, I play the arcades. So it was kind of like my mom unintentionally, she got me into games. I would just run and be like, oh, I need to play this. Oh, what is this game? Like, the weird stuff was always at Great America. And then here in Illinois, we had a place called Aladdin's Castle. So when we went to the mall, she would take me, she would give me $1 and I would disappear. She would stay in JCPenney. I would be at Aladdin's Castle and I would get my tokens and I would play about two to three games depending on what the token price was. So that's kind of how I got into games.
That sounds really bad, but it was true as well. Like, here's $1 and you disappear. Like, you just wander off into the yonder and like, who knows where the hell you went or what happened, but you're like, I got $1, man. I can figure something out.
It was the lottery winning golden ticket.
Yeah, absolutely. The worst though is that when you had to go back and try to get that second run of money, you were like, hey, yo, mom, I need this money. I need to go. I need to continue. Or the worst thing in the world, which gave kids anxiety, was the countdown on those arcade games. It was like 30, 29, and hopefully you were able to run, try to get some money real fast, get some money back in there before you're continuing out. Or there was some asshole kid who was by you that would just go, just blast through the continued. You're like, why would you do that? What are you doing?
Well, I was fortunate enough that I would just have people just walk away from their games. They would walk away or they would leave their token on the game and completely be like, I'm going to give it 5 minutes. If they do not come get this token, if they do not come play this game, I will go and play. And I did. They literally would just go somewhere else or they will leave the arcade. I would go in, grab that token. I would go and play, whether the game was good or not. I would like learn the skill and try to get as far as I can. Oh, I got a free token? Okay, I'm about to put in Kid Nick Eye from Dead East.
Right.
And just play as much as I can. I might not pass the first level, but when I did pass that first level, I was just like, yes, I'm getting further. I'm making progress.
Right.
Like, arcades was just like my life. Arcade and console have always been my arcade life. I mean, not arcade life, my video game life.
Yeah, and it's funny because you mentioned Great America. I actually grew up in Rockford, Illinois. Like, that's where I lived for like 18 years, basically. And it's funny, and it's so crappy because like I didn't go to Six Flags Great America until I was actually like in high school. Like, we just never went. Like, you know, money wise, we weren't, you know, and again, Chicago seems so far away when you were a kid. Like, for me at least, because like, here's what's stupid. An hour and a half seems like forever. An hour and a half seemed like, oh my God, it's an hour and a half away. That's ridiculous. Like, because everything in my town was within 15, 20 minutes. So to think like an hour and a half was ridiculous. Now I live in Phoenix, Arizona, where I live on one of the suburbs, and like an hour drive to get somewhere is like, no big deal. Let's just an hour drive to go to Scottsdale to go get some Portillo's. Yeah, no, that's good. That's how I do it.
I don't think Portillo's is all that. It's good.
It's
but
good.
It's
No. It's good. But I mean, like, yeah, I'm right there with you though. Like, I have my father-in-law who thinks it's like the greatest thing ever, and I'm like, it's good. Like, no way is it bad, right? But
right.
I mean, when we went to Portillo's for that line, like the first time it opened in Scottsdale, which was like the first one in Arizona, and it was just so packed, and I'm like, I get it, it's cool, but like, man, there's a lot of fucking people here for Portillo's, man. Like,
well, the thing with Portillo's is that it's good for those who just like who think it's the best thing, and I'm just like, have you been to Checkers? Have you tasted fries?
Checkers, man. Yo, Checkers fries, bro. That's what's up. I was so bummed, like, in Rockford, all of the Checkers closed down. Like, all of them closed down.
Same here.
And I was so sad.
And so in August, I went up to Milwaukee to go see my friend and go to this conference. As I'm getting close to his church to go sing, I passed an old school Checkers. I almost did a 180 with my car to get to that Checkers.
Hold on, though. Was it open or was it?
It was open.
Okay. Checkers is still a thing here in Phoenix. Like, it's very far and few between. Like, you won't run into them often. But no, man, when you run to a Checker and you're like, yo, fries now, bacon fries immediately, bacon cheddar fries, let's go.
Yes, they just opened one in my area. It's like maybe a 7-minute drive, and I was just like, thank you.
See, for me, like I live somewhere to where, like I said, I have to kind of drive some places to get to certain locations. But like when we go tubing down the river and stuff, well, only thing that's funny is like how far away it is. I'm like, there's a Checkers right there. Like, we're absolutely stopped. Like, we make a trip out of it. It's like, cool. If we're going to go all the way out there to go do that, we have to stop here at this, at Checker.
Yes.
Dude, they started selling Checker fries at the grocery store. And I'm like, I don't think they could be as good. I just don't. Like, there's certain things like,
I have not tried them. I haven't tried them or the Arby's fries.
Arby's fries are good. They're good. No, like, I'm talking about the freezer ones. They're good. So, like, yeah. See how it turned into, look at this. Remember how I was saying, this sometimes the show gets off the rails. It turned into video game arcades to Checker fries. But for real though, people, if you haven't tried Checkers, find one, go try it. It's really good.
Yes.
As far as it goes with the games though, I mean, that was the other thing too, is like arcades. I personally didn't do much with arcades. Like, we had an arcade that was, I remember there was like arcades that opened and closed rather quickly in Rockford. Like, they would open and they'd seem to be awesome, and then like 2 months later they were gone, and I'm like, I didn't know what it was. Which
is weird because my mom, when they had Atlantic Castle, Namco opened their arcade.
Like Namco, like themselves, opened an arcade.
Yeah,
gotcha.
And they had a bigger space than Atlantic Castle, and you had, which is the weird thing, you had Super Street Fighter 2 on the left, right next to Mortal Kombat 2.
Jeez. In
big screen. But what they also had that Atlantic Castle didn't have, of course they had Namco games, but they had like they was the first ones to get like the 4-pack Neo Geo systems.
Right.
With the 4 games. So you played King of Fighters, Spin Masters, like you played a whole bunch of stuff. And I was just like, this is the Nintendo and Sega of the arcade games.
Right. Yeah, like they were. I can't imagine those two being right next to each other, because that part of the arcade had to be a like just packed like all day.
Well, yeah, they were so separate away from each other, and the only reason why they closed down is because the mall closed down. Right.
Shout out to malls, which are basically getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Like, dude, malls are not happening as much anymore. But I remember, the mall. One of the malls I used to go to had an arcade, but it seemed like all these arcade places were shutting down in where I lived. So like, I didn't really experience too much. I remember I used to go to Texas, every month, because my
Yes.
mom's family lives in Texas. So for a month in the summertime, we would go to Texas, and my grandma would basically spoil the shit out of us and do what we wanted and everything. But there was this arcade place that was at Grapevine Mills Mall, which is like this big deal mall they opened up there. It was like it's a circle mall, but like if you walk around the entire thing, it's 1 mile long. Like it's a big ass mall. But I remember they had this arcade like place there that I'm pretty sure is just now at Dave & Buster's. Yeah, I'm sure they got bought out or whatever. But they had this machine that was like a 2-story machine. Like you sat in a chair, you like buckled up, and it was like going down a building, but it was like a shooter. And I was like,
wow,
this is the coolest shit ever. And I never saw it anywhere else, like ever. It was just like the one place I saw it, and I was like, dude, that's the craziest shit ever. And I remember they had, and this was like, it's gotta say like late 90s probably. They had this like pseudo like VR fighter where like you would put these things on your hands and your feet, and you would stand in this area, and it was like you could sorta kick and your character would kinda like, it was super jank. But again, back then it was like, this is amazing. This is where the future of games is gonna go. And it was just weird. Like, it just like, it reminded me of Virtual Fighter. Like, the frame rate was probably 4 frames a second. Like, it was just, it was trash. But again, back then, man, certain arcades were like next level.
Well, and that's the kind of thing with the accessories, like for the Sega Genesis.
Oh my God.
Where you had the martial arts ring, the controller ring, and I don't know if you've seen the ad.
I have.
It's the kid or the guy. He's like in some red shorts and it look like he's kicking. So it's kind of like you're doing these martial arts moves with this controller, and that was on the floor. And I think it never worked. But it was just like, it was that stuff that just made it very interesting,
dude. But I'm going to take an educated guess and say about 85% of those third-party accessories that tried to look awesome didn't work right at all. Like, I think they worked well enough to be able to be sold, but then like after 2 tries, I bet that shit didn't work right. Because I remember there was like that ring, there was a gun, like a silent scope, the super scope and like the zapper and stuff for that one game used. It's weird because like all these accessories started coming out for those consoles. And of course you had the Power Glove.
Yes.
And Power Glove is so bad. Jesus. That was like a glorified ad.
Which I went to go see that movie, and love it. Still love it to this very day. Love the Wizard. But my brother had a Sega Master System, and he actually had to get 2 because his first one broke down. When he got the second one, we had like this, the Sega gun or the Mega Master System gun, whatever
they called it. Yeah, it was some bullshit name.
So we played certain games with it, but he wasn't into like those kind of games, but I ended up playing. And somehow, unbeknownst to us, it wasn't shooing upwards. So we had to this is very weird, we had to turn the gun upside down and shoot the gun this way. So the gun, the long barrel is upside down, the clicker is on your hands, and you just will move around shooting like this, and it worked. Because we would play Gangsta Town on Sega Master System, and that was the way that it was able to be to work. I actually beat that game that way, which is so weird.
Jeez.
He also had Zaxxon 3D, and Zaxxon 3D was like, if you think of Star Fox, you played the game in 3D. That's the only way that you could play, because it was split to make the game look like 3D. Well, the 3D glasses broke because they just weren't working no more.
So that game turned into useless real fast.
I actually beat that game without the glasses.
So did you go blind in the process? Is that what happened?
I did not go blind. I was lining up shots, and I was just like, yes, I was able to get through that game and beat it.
That's crazy.
Yeah, my brother, he got the accessories for the Sega Master System. I never got no accessory. Like, my first accessory that I actually got was the Game Genie for Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you want to call it an accessory, but the Super Game Boy, for
you can call it an accessory. Yeah. It was an attachment for the Super Nintendo. Yeah, you can call it an accessory.
Okay, so those two were like my first kind of accessory, and I stopped using the Game Genie because it was just like, this is not doing nothing for me. Like I should be skilled enough to be able to beat and play these games.
You know what though? You say that shit, but some of those games were straight unfair, man. It felt like the arcades. Like what's funny is like I'm almost positive certain areas of the arcade games, like certain games, are unbeatable on one quarter. Like there's no way to do it. Like they're certain points where they get so hard that you have to die to put in another quarter, because God forbid you put in one quarter and beat the game. That's not what the arcade machines want. They want you to keep feeding quarters into them. I think that same mentality somehow transferred to like Super Nintendo games and like NES games, because they were hard as shit, but they didn't need to be. We already bought it. Like, why you got to make this unnecessarily hard, man?
But you know what? The Super Nintendo games were never too hard for me. I think the only game that was very difficult, two games that were very difficult for me was Shadowrun, because I've never played a game like that, and Super Ghouls and Ghosts.
That one's hard for that's one of those. Isn't that like one of those games that's like one of the hardest games ever? Blah 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 type of deal. Like.
Supposedly, yes.
Yeah. Like I mean, I remember having a Game Genie for the NES, and my only thing I thought was hysterical was like how it basically like broke the game. Like it was changing code in the game to give you X amount of lives or whatever. But I always thought it was funny because like I think it was in Mario, just Mario Brothers or whatever. If you put in the code for unlimited lives, it would be like, you know, the title of the screen that shows up beforehand, like that tells you, you know, shows Mario and how many lives you had. It would be some weird character. It would be like, instead of saying a number, it would say like question. It would be like a purple question mark and a blue square. And you're like, the hell does that mean? Like, I guess that means unlimited lives. And then the game would just work. But then, you know, if you put in the code one digit wrong for the Game Genie, game wouldn't even start. Or like the game would show up in like the pictures all jacked up. It's like, yeah, you had to make sure you had those codes. But dude, Game Genie also, of course, now the internet's made it relatively easy, but like they had new codes for new games and you had to buy the new books. Or if you were cool, you could just open up a game magazine at a grocery store real fast and jot that shit down and go home. Which is funny. It's funny that you mentioned it. Electronic gaming, EGM and GamePro were like my video game Bibles. Yeah. And every time I went to Walgreens, I would make sure I'm at the magazine rack, reading it, looking at it, just like, oh, I have to have this. And my mom be like, "Do you want anything?" And I will always show her this, and she's like, "How much is it?" It's like $5. Yep. And she would always get it for me every month. Nice. And she never asked me, do I want to subscribe? And one of the cool things that my mom did, and she kind of like almost made me cry in church, because I used to be an usher at church. She was giving out gifts to all the kids and stuff. And so she called my name up and gave me my gift. And I didn't know she did this. I get it back. And she gives me a scarf. I'm like, oh, yes. She gave me the December edition of GamePro with Captain Hook for the Sega CD on the cover. And I was almost about to bawl as a kid in church, because I was just like, she knows me. She knows what I like, and she gets me. And I was just like, I can't read this in church. But I will open up the box and just skim through it. Just be like, yes. Well, let me read the reviews. Let me see that. So, yeah. My favorite thing is, like, as far as subscribing to magazines, the funny thing is, like, your mom bought you all of those. I'm almost positive she could have subscribed for, like, the cost. Mm-hmm. What never made sense to me in the world is, like, you buy it at a Walgreens or a grocery store or something, and the magazine was, like, $5 or $6. Yes. But to subscribe for an entire year for some reason was, like, $12.99 or something stupid. Like, it just didn't make sense how they did that. Like, oh, if you want to subscribe, it's like $1 an issue instead of $5 an issue. I wonder how many people just went, it's just too much effort. Like, I'd just rather go to the store and buy $5 instead.
And I think, cause see, my mom or my dad, of course they weren't into video games, but my mom, she loves Mario. She's a big Nintendo fan. She bought a Wii U before me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she bought a Wii U before me. She got a Switch before me. Like, she loves Mario and Animal Crossing. And when I used to live in an apartment, she would be in my room playing the Nintendo, trying to beat Mario Brothers. Now, of course, at the age that I was able to beat Mario, of course, with the cheat, but I actually went through the whole Mario 32 levels and beat it that way.
Right.
And was very skilled. But like my mom, I didn't know that she would be a big fan of Mario, but to this very day, ever since the 80s, she still is. That's literally her gaming. Like, she even brought Super Mario Run when I told her that it was coming to the iTouch, or the iPad and stuff. And she's just like, yeah, I paid $10 and got it.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, that was going to be a good question I was going to ask. Cause I mean, like, obviously your parents, some parents are into gaming, some aren't. Obviously, you ended up getting the consoles from your parents and stuff. But I mean, that's cool to hear that your mom was, and it still is, into gaming. Cause I mean, there's certain parents out there that, certain parents are very much into gaming and they're very active in it, and then some parents are just like, it's just that box that keeps my kids quiet. I'm gonna go do other things that are far more adult-like. But, it's cool, though, that your mom was still, like, she was into games then and still is now and everything. Like, was she, I mean, I guess this kind of answers it, but, like, was she encouraging of you playing games? Like, did she ever get on your butt or anything for playing games or anything like that?
One time she did. So, and I was thinking about this. I'm just like, oh, okay. So, in fourth grade, I ended up failing the fourth grade, and she ended up taking my NES controllers. And, only time, she would leave the system and everything, but she would take my controllers so I wouldn't be able to play it.
Yeah, it's basically useless without it. Yeah.
But the blessing is that when you got the best friend that lives next to you who also has two controllers and is willing to share a controller for you, you just sneak it into your house and you play that game. But she knew that if I asked anything for Christmas, if we were at the mall, anything video game related that I could play, if it was cheap enough and she could afford it, she was willing to give it to me, because she knew I was a person that really didn't have friends. And so she know that this would keep me busy and this would keep me entertained. Like, she ended up buying Super Mario Brothers 2 from her job, and her job don't sell video games. She used to work at Abbott. So I was just like, and you was able to get a video game? Like, in Super Mario Bros. 2, you could never find in the store, just like Super Mario Bros. 3. But she knew that, to keep me, I guess, busy and entertained, that, yeah, she would buy me video games and magazines and stuff. And she just knew that I had a love for video games. I definitely, and still to this very day, have a love for Nintendo above not everything, but when it comes video game related, like, Nintendo has become number one, and I think it's because of my mom. Sad thing though is that I never got into Nintendo Power.
Well, how does that happen? Like, how did you? I mean, dude, I would say, if you're into Nintendo that much, Nintendo Power used to be kids' lives, man. If you were a Nintendo kid. Because
of EGM and GamePro, I actually got that first cover of EGM when it first came out. And I think it's the Mega Man 2 cover. It might have been. I think that was the first cover that I got into. And yeah, and ever since that, I just been into gaming. Yeah, I wasn't into Nintendo Power. It's because of EGM and GamePro.
Yeah, I mean, those will also, I mean, that would help, but that would also supplement, like, everything, basically. I mean, it wasn't just Nintendo and stuff. So, but I mean, as far as it goes, like you had mentioned, you had a Sega Master System growing up. You had a Super Nintendo growing up. So, I mean, you had both, but like Genesis, though, you didn't have a Genesis, right?
Yeah. Brother had a Genesis. My brother was the Sega kid and I was the Nintendo kid.
Dang, so look at you guys. You had the best of both worlds in the house.
Yes. So, my brother had, 2 Sega Master Systems, a Sega Genesis, and a Sega Dreamcast. He didn't get the Saturn or the Sega CD. So, or the Mega 32X. He didn't get any of that. Me, I got, a Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64, GameCube. I ended up buying myself. A Wii U, a Switch, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, DS, DS Lite, 3DS. The only way that I jumped out of Nintendo is because I got a TurboGrafx 16.
Damn, so you didn't even like, you didn't even go PlayStation or none of the other ones, and like
I did go PlayStation with my N64. So I got a PlayStation 1 for my birthday, but I bought a PS2 and PS3 and PS4.
Okay.
I bought Xbox, the original one. I skipped the 360, which we'll probably talk about later, because I actually wrote a blog about a 360 that didn't get me in a lot of trouble, but was kind of the first hate and upset that I have received as a comic, and actually got one from one of the editors at EGM when he went to GameSpeak. And I will talk about that because that one is kind of interesting. The story's not there anymore, but it was very interesting. So, and then of course I have an Xbox One. So right now I have all the current consoles and stuff.
Okay, so it's not like you just stuck with Nintendo and like ignored other things, because that would be very bumming if it was just like, no, I only stuck with Nintendo. Like, damn, you missed everything else.
I think as I got older and I started, writing about games and, podcasting about games, it was just like, I need to be fair in what I do and get all three consoles, because there was a lot of stuff and there was a lot of my favorite companies jumping into other platforms. So I was just like, of course I would get this platform to pick up and play their games. So I could be able to be like, be part of the history that was being made and be able to talk about that history leading to now. So yeah, when I was old enough to buy my own, and I also bought a Dreamcast, forgot about that. But when I started getting older to buy my own stuff, I started going different ways.
Yeah. I mean, well, also too, I mean, you get to that point where you get older and you have disposable income, and then you kind of just start buying whatever it is you want. You know what I mean? You're not just, I'm not saying you were forced to get Nintendo stuff, but also too, you had limited options when you could ask for one gift. But yeah, as soon as you get your own money, shit, that's your money. You can do what you want. Like,
yes,
you can do it. You can go buy anything you want. And that always happens. I like the idea, by the way, when you were mentioning how being grounded from your NES, but then your friend had it. Like, one of my friends had a similar situation where he got grounded from his NES, but instead of taking controllers, the mom was smart and took the power cord. And I'm like, that's how you do it. Like, that's how you ground somebody. You're like, I'm going to take this, which is what I've done as a parent to my kids. Like, when my son messes up in school and he's grounded from his Xbox, there's enough controllers in the house to where he could easily go in my game room and grab a controller. I'm like, no, I'm smarter than that. And I walk up and I just take the power cord.
That's smart. But back in the day, because somehow you had a Casio adapter lying around the house, even though you don't have a Casio thing, you plugged it into your NES and it still worked.
That makes a lot of sense. You are correct. Yeah. Because like there was just some weird, or there was something else that used a similar power cord. You're right. Because now, like, I mean, at least with his Xbox One, he has the OG Xbox One that's got the power brick.
Yeah.
Not shit else in the house uses that power brick. Like, sorry, that power brick's specific for that. The only problem is now is like, yeah, all the new consoles, PS4, the 1S, the 1X, like all of those all use the standard normal power cord. So it's like, yeah, I'm sure there's something else in the house that uses this that you could get away with that. But
yes. Yeah,
no, that OG Xbox One with that big old power brick, I'm like, yeah, we're going to take this because I know for sure you won't be able to do that. So, yeah. I mean, sometimes kids, man, you got to do stuff like that.
And it was weird because my mom, she ended up giving me my controller back. I ended up getting my controller back to my friend, and she ended up putting me, you're going to summer school. So, she put me through summer school, and she would she would see my grades, and she's just like, how in the world did you go from an F to an A? And I was just like, the thing with me as a kid, that teacher that I had she was boring. Like, she was boring in the sense that I never felt challenged. Like, she didn't make anything interesting. It was just like, you do the work and you go on. And don't have no kind of encouragement and stuff. And it was just like, this is bad teaching. Now, I do take blame that I didn't do the homework.
Sure.
And that's completely fine. I was a kid. I made that decision. But it's just like, you're not just going to you're not going to just put something in front of me and be like, here, just learn it. I'm like, me as a kid, I knew how to be involved in doing school, because when I went, ever since I did that, since I passed summer school, I had been having A's and B's throughout the rest of my whole school year. And even when I got to high school, I ended up with the National Honor Society. So, like, heck, my senior year, I tell people this, my senior year, I was just like, I literally didn't really have to go to school if I didn't want to, because I had 3 electives. And if I didn't have no electives, I was at school for an hour and a half and I was at home.
It's so funny because I was literally the same way. Like, during high school, I actually, like, for a while there, I never really had problems in school just because of, like, I don't know. My mom and dad were just like, especially my mom, she was just like, school's important, get good grades at school. And also I realized, like, hey, if I got good grades in school, nobody really cared what I did, right? I was playing games all the time, and, like, I went out and, like, nobody cared. I was more the talkative type, so I'd get in trouble doing that instead of classwork. But, yeah, in high school, I got to a point where all my friends were like, oh, we have a free hour. I'm like, I told my counselor, I'm like, no, fill that hour. Fill that hour with something. I don't want a free hour. I want you to fill that with a class. And he's just like, why? You know, you have I'm like, no, I have an option to get this shit done. Like, I want this done. So then, like, in Illinois, the only 2 required classes that were there were English and gym, because Illinois is still the only state that requires gym every single year.
Well, actually, depending on what school you went to, because in my high school, when I got to my senior year, I didn't have to take gym. I only had to take gym for 2 years if I wanted to.
Really?
Because, yes, I took two years of gym, my freshman and sophomore year. My third year, because I took driver's ed, that filled my gym class.
Yeah, you can have electives like that to, like, fill the gaps. Like, in our school, we had ROTC or dance, and that could be your gym credit. But, like, you had to do something like that. And not me. I got my 7 classes, like the stuff that was required for me, because I had to take some 3 years or 4 years of stuff. When I got to my 4th year of my senior, yes, I had to still take English. That is required. Yeah, see, I think it's like English, was required. But, like, I had English. All my math was out of the way. All my Spanish, second language was all the way. Social studies, science, like, all that was all done. And, like, literally, I had to go to school for gym, for English, and then, like, I could have left. But I had some electives, like, I had auto tech and, like, video production and stuff like that. So, I mean, there was different things that we did have. But, yeah, dude, no, like, I was completely one of those where I was just like, I want my stuff done. I want it out of the way. I was also like that with homework. Like, I would get homework done and out of the way to where I could just play games all day long.
Well, my health class was, I got my credit on health during summer school at my school, because I'm just like, 3 weeks of health. Let me get this done and get this out the way. So when I did get to my senior year, I think I had to take economics and English. Those are my 2 required. I took art, 2 choir classes. Dude, when it hit 12 o'clock, I bounced. Yeah, I literally was gone. And I would go home when homework and stuff, of course, would be done and everything. But here I am, just like, let me 100% Spiral the Dragon. Nice. And I literally just did that. Like, it was so easy for me doing stuff. Of course, I ended up playing volleyball later on in the year. But it was just like,
get your stuff done and get it out of the way so you can do what you want.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, during high school, I did all of that, and I didn't even play video games. I was skateboarding. Like, I literally stopped playing games basically for, like, 4 years. It's funny because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater made me stop playing video games, because I was like, hey, skateboarding's really fun. And literally for the whole, like, high school, I barely played a game. I was like,
so
I'm just doing this.
So listeners, be blown by this. I've never played a Tony Hawk game and never cared to. And you want to know why? It's because I played Skate or Die on the NES at 720.
Okay, hold on. So here's the thing, though, and I'm not gonna say that Tony Hawks are bad or anything like that, because Tony Hawks obviously have a whole, like, the thing is, Tony Hawk became not like a skateboarding game, but it became just like it just became like a combo game, like just trying to ring up the biggest combo, and it's almost in a way it's just like figuring out button combinations and stuff is basically what Tony Hawk eventually became. Like,
yes,
I actually, when I started getting into skateboarding, I was playing Tony Hawk's and I was like, this is fun, but, like, it's getting ridiculous. Like all the crazy shit you can do. You're jumping off of like these giant buildings. I'm like, this is cool and all, but I started getting to the point where I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, it's not bad. And if you go back and play them now, again, it just depends on the type of gamer you are, because if you go into it thinking this is a sports or skateboarding game,
yes,
sorta, you know, but I mean, it's more combos and hitting buttons and getting this grind to this manual to doing this, and like, it's a fun game, but it's also not really a skateboarding game. But I remember when Skate came out, it was a wrap. I was like, this is the game I've been wanting forever, because this is a realistic skateboarding game. And there's still moments, because now I'm too old and fat to skateboard and I don't have time. But I'll still play Skate 3 to this day. I'll just be like, I have like 20 minutes to kill, and I'll literally go to just one spot in that game, one rail, one set of stairs, and I'm just pretending like I'm skateboarding back in the day. I'm like, man, this is still good. And when that game became backward compatible on Xbox, and it had Xbox One enhanced graphics, I literally turned it on and I almost wanted to cry. I'm like, this is my favorite day in the world.
I've never understood why Skate 3 was so popular.
It's literally the culmination of like, it is a skateboarding game. It is not a combo game. It is not a rack up a high score game. It is a skateboarding game, and it's literally the pinnacle of like the best skateboarding game possible. And again, when when Skate 4 was getting teased at E3, I was losing my shit. I was literally just ready. I was like the best thing in the world is, here's how good Skate 3 is. On EA's Instagram, anytime they post anything, doesn't matter what it's about, people in the comments, please make Skate 4. And they will flood EA's Instagram comments with just, please make Skate 4. And everyone wants it. And then out of nowhere, last year at E3, at 2018, the Skate 3 servers were taken down years ago because like the game lost its popularity, but then slowly started getting it back.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, the Skate 3 servers came back online right before E3, and everybody was like, oh, here we go. Skate 3 servers came back and they didn't announce it. They didn't make a big deal. It was just one day they were on, and I was like, oh my God, here we go. They're coming back. And then EA, I think I hated EA's conference the most, only because I got way too hyped thinking Skate 4 was going to happen. And then when it didn't, I was like, never again.
Compared to the Bethesda conference, the EA wasn't that bad. The Command & Conquer stuff was
that shit was terrible. That shit was terrible.
You just lost.
Oh my God.
Dude, you literally just lost the audience, the people who are viewing, the journalists. They were just like, how in the heck did you just put a game on there? Don't tell us what it is. It just said, this is Command & Conquer for mobile. It didn't show a trailer. I'm like, wait, you just took one of the best known franchises and you put it on mobile?
It's not. So here's the thing. That's not even the big deal. Like, cause I mean, again, like some people were pissed. Yeah, they were wishing it was a PC game and everything. But what got me real mad was then you start doing a demonstration like it's an esport for like 20 minutes. And I'm like, this is very unnecessary. Please go do this shit somewhere else. For a game
that we don't know what it is.
Right. Yeah, they were trying to make it like it was a big esport. And I'm like, oh, stop. Just don't do that. Because I bet you viewership of that and like everything just plummeted as soon as that happened. They spent so much time showing it. And I'm like, dude, no one cares about this right now. Like, people are like freaking out over Anthem. You know, people are like more excited about real games you guys have. And then you're like, let's make a big deal of this, I guess.
Facebook and Twitter, when it comes to E3, is just wonderful.
Or it's terrible.
No, it's wonderful because this is the thing with sometimes the gaming community. You have E3 and its comments with there. You have the Nintendo Direct and people's reactions and comments with that. And then you have the Game Awards. And each of them do way different things. Regardless of a game is being showcased and be like, oh, this is an announcement. I'm like, oh, that's cool and stuff. Like, Nintendo Directs are the highest in comments because there's so much positivity, whether you like it or not. There's something that you're going to be like, oh, that's cool. Or now with some people, they make a gift for me, whatever. But like for me, I'd be like, I Tokyo Mirage Session. I was just like, I need that soundtrack. I need this game. I need this soundtrack. Like, still to this very day love Nintendo Direct and everything. When it came to E3, people got to remember, well, some people don't remember that E3 was only in magazines, and you only got that information when that next issue came out.
Right.
Of course, when the internet came out, you was still getting that thing, and when they're closer to the public, it started going in a different route. Now that they stream a lot of conferences, a lot of people feel more involved and can be excited and probably let down, but still curious to see what's coming. You look at the Game Awards, definitely this year, it's going to literally be hard to watch. And we clown the Game Awards for making like some of the stupid decisions and showing all of this stuff. And we know for some people that it's just a big ad for upcoming games and stuff. But it's just like, you can't say this is exclusive and it's a game that we already know. You literally could have released this trailer and we would have been like, that didn't serve no purpose. Like,
but it's a get though, man. For them, it's like, this is a get. This is a good trailer. It's a new trailer and everything. But no, I get what you're saying.
And then everybody's just like, where's the gameplay at? And I think that's why when you see a Nintendo Direct, it has set the bar on how you present a game and how you get people expectations high and wanted them. Whether you laugh at it, whether you be like, I'm not going to get this garbage, and then it's like the number one game, and you and your friends on your Twitter line, it's just talking all about the greatness of this game. Whether you thought it was going to be a letdown. Look at the people who laughed at ARMS when they did that presentation,
right?
And then you look at the demo, and everybody's just like, okay, I'm buying ARMS, and it was just like, but you made fun of this game when it came out.
But it's easy to make fun of something before you play it. I mean, certain things. I mean, example like the Command and Conquer, people lost their mind on it. It might be a good game. I haven't given it a chance, but it might be a good game. That's always the case though. Is like when you get to games where they get shown off and stuff. The only problem is back then, we didn't have that pleasure because we saw pictures. We didn't see gameplay. We just saw pictures and we were like, this game is going to be amazing. And then you play it and it was like, it depends. It was usually hit or miss, but you know, now, I mean, the internet obviously has opened up people to what everybody's going to have their own opinions on stuff. I personally am one of those people where I don't post a lot of stuff myself only because I just look at things going, man, who wants to hear what I have to say about this? No one does. But certain things, like, I've been on a couple podcasts, like E3 prediction shows, and especially Xbox ones, because that's my thing. And a lot of people, like Sean Capri has asked me to be on the Xbox show because he values my opinion on Xbox. But, like, I'm very critical of people as well, though, too, because, like, man, if Xbox says some stupid shit, I'm going to be like, please stop doing that. Just stop. Like, that whole reveal of the Xbox One, like, with Don Matrick, I hate that man. I really do. I hate that man. He ruined so much goodwill.
And this is the thing, because I am a team lead for Xbox for my crew podcast about it, and I'm very critical of Xbox like I am of Nintendo and Sony. Well, not so much Nintendo, but so much of Sony and Microsoft, because I sometimes feel like they're doing a similar thing. I kind of get on each console to challenge more of the listener and more of people who just have the same opinion. If I could affect your conversation and your way of thinking, and sometimes provide facts and stuff, I don't say that I got you, but I try to help make you think outside the box.
Right.
You know, and it's always easy to go to something and be critical about it and say what they're saying. But sometimes I'm like, well, look at the pattern and the business decisions this company has made. You think out of the company decisions of all of this time that they made, you think they're going to actually follow something that makes reasonable sense? No. Because of whatever decision that a company makes, if it's making them money, they're going to continue to do it and probably, make it a little bit better.
I mean, the other thing too, in the same sense, is like, in a way, I'm glad Xbox got their head kicked in because it made them better. Like, it made them want to try things that they may not have tried, or it forced them to do more to make them better. Which that always is the case usually, right? I mean, like, if you are down, you don't want to just be like when you're super on top, you get really cocky, and then that's when you start fucking up. Like, that always is the case. Like with 360, they were on top. They were, the leader of gaming and like online and all this stuff.
and we're
and then the Xbox One
360.
came out, and then like they just got cocky and said, "Oh, we could do this." Sony did the same thing though with PlayStation 2. Like, they were on top. Everybody was buying PS2s, and then they came out and said, "Here's the PS3," and everybody was like, "Dang!" Like,
but this is the thing that I have with Microsoft and Sony. As much as crap that Nintendo gets, you will have a better and successful library with Nintendo than you will have with Microsoft and Sony. Let me tell you why. When you go to GameStop or even to a lot of garage sales, you will pretty much see a lot of Microsoft and Sony titles. You will barely see any Nintendo or third-party Nintendo games on for those sales. If they are at a higher price. So whether you are the leading console person of that generation, if I walk into your store, if I walk into your garage sale and the price and the value of your first party and third party games is so low because many people trade in, that just says something about your system and the developers who create those games for that system. If Uncharted was on Nintendo GameCube, you will barely see a copy in the store. Or if you do see it in a copy of the store, it's going to be $89.
I mean, yeah, because I know for a fact, like Nintendo, like I will say the good thing about Nintendo stuff is that it does hold its value and everything really well. Mm-hmm. However, like it's just weird because even things like the Wii U, which were not a big success, Nintendo still, like with their games, they just didn't give a shit to drop the price. They're like,
but you know what, people call it the Wii U unsuccessful, but the Wii U is a success, and I'm gonna tell you why. When two consoles for one console maker could make the other competition try to do the same thing, and even PC and other third parties, and they fail at it, your system is a success. When has Nintendo ever tried to copy Microsoft and Sony?
Now they're in a race, like, as far as it goes with offering, they're on, hold on though, Nintendo's online is garbage though.
But it's not.
Oh.
Yeah, you want to, okay.
Oh.
Let's have this talk. Mitch, let's have this talk. And I'm going to break it down to you why I say it's not. You are coming from an American viewpoint of online gaming. Nintendo is a more Japanese-focused company. Mm-hmm. When has Nintendo ever had experience in the online community compared to Microsoft, who have worked with developers, worked with business companies, and worked with online instructors to get that system up and running? Mm-hmm. Look at the ups and downs that Windows itself have been going through. Look what Sony had to go through after PS2 with PS3. They had for half a year that their PSN was down. Sony's not known for doing online instructor because Sony is a sound company. They make technology and sound. That's where their business is at. Yes, PlayStation is a successful story. That's great. But those two companies are trying to do something different for the West. Nintendo has never had a big online instructor. So when they're rolling out, yes, you could call it garbage if you want to, but you have to let Nintendo, who's doing something for the first time, you have to let it grow. When Xbox came out, how many people were on Xbox Live when it first came out and it was a hit? It wasn't. 360 during those days, it wasn't a hit. It had to grow. So a lot of people, like, you have to allow Nintendo in this online system to grow. A lot of people try to compare that Nintendo online system is going to be as great as Microsoft and Sony. It's not supposed to be. They don't know what they have to learn from us as gamers and see what works and what doesn't work in order for them to grow. How do you think Nintendo became from what it is now?
Right, but also it's 2018. Xbox Live was happening in 2003.
Yeah, Xbox Live.
But right. Even Xbox Live back then was doing more than what Nintendo is currently doing now.
But guess what Xbox Live came from? Microsoft has been based on PC, so they have a better insight and a better structure. When has Nintendo ever did PC? When has Nintendo had a strong PC library?
Okay,
and work with
even
other
still though, PlayStation, like you can voice chat during the games.
Right. And guess what? Once again, Sony had to appeal to a Western market to compete with Microsoft. So of course they're going to jump on their bandwagon. When have you known that Sony was supposed to be into doing online stuff? So would you have three different businesses coming from each other? One is going to have one more experience than the other. Nintendo's not going to have the best sound. Sony's going to have that. Sony's not going to have the best online. Microsoft is going to have that because it's been in the PC. Microsoft is not going to have the best games. Sony's not going to have the best games. Nintendo has been a toy company making toys and video games for years, centuries, decades. So they have more of an experience. Each of them work in their own manner. If you know Nintendo has never did anything online and with PC, of course it's not going to be the best.
However, I would expect to see things like voice chat in a game, not through an app. Like,
and you want to know why? I think Nintendo, look at voice chat itself. Whether that's cool because you can't, you want to do it with friends and stuff. Whatever you want to see it as, that's fine. But then you see the stories of the past with people having voice chat. You see what happened with the swatting incident and stuff like that. Nintendo wants to not be a part of that, and they can't control that. You can't control that at all. But you got to realize that if Nintendo's trying to market games to everybody, not everybody has a mentality to handle video games and be able to be respectable in a manner for video games.
I'm talking about just talking with friends. I'm not even talking about talking to other people. I'm talking like I played, like the problem is that right now, yes, Nintendo is first starting their online, right? And they're trying to figure out how they're going to do things. The only thing is that by today's standards, your basic things like being able to talk with friends, being able to have a party chat, being able to do different structure, like for example, like the license transfers, being able to like how the cloud data or the cloud save things working, like all of those things. By today's standards, even more basic companies have better things figured out in that regard. Like, yes, Microsoft has 10, 15 years of online experience. So yeah, they're going to have more of an infrastructure and things like that. Like, no one's denying that. Sony, obviously, PlayStation 3's online was bad, but then they figured out what sucked and made it better. I expect Nintendo to get better, but like certain things, just the how they're doing the cloud saves, how the voice chat is not working through the console. Like when I played Wii U Mario Kart and Smash, you could voice chat in the lobby, but not during the game. Like, that's a real basic thing that Xbox had figured out. Granted, I know it's Microsoft and everything, but Xbox had that figured out in 2003. Like, you're telling me Nintendo 15 years later, and they're Nintendo, and they're not some startup, they're Nintendo, couldn't have figured that out?
Right. Nintendo can't figure it out because they have been focused on game and quality. They have been focused on single players, and they feel like a game is more enjoyable when you're when you actually around another body playing the game.
That's true. I agree with you there because Nintendo does have more of that. All I'll say is like,
and let me tell you, you grow a better friendship in a sense when you're in person, because the thing about it is, oh yes, I could chat from you because you're in Japan. That's fine. But if we're battling at McDonald's for Pokemon, or we having a Smash battle, you get into it.
Yes, I completely agree.
And there starts friendships, and those start to be like, okay, let's do this, or are you going to be here? Like, it's still to this very day, Nintendo still has something more about, it's better to do stuff in person, and if whatever way that you get able to stream their games, when you're watching like Game Informer's 8-player Smash Brothers on Wii U. It's probably one of the funniest things I've seen, and it feels good because everybody is in there.
Mm-hmm.
If your online drops if your internet goes out, if you didn't pay your Xbox Live account or whatever,
right?
If the game freezes up and stuff, or it crashes, if the servers go down in the division, you screwed. So what are y'all going to talk about? They're playing what game?
I understand.
If you literally could be Cloud from Smash Brothers and just smack me out of the thing and really be able to talk that stuff in front of me,
it is better. Not denying that.
While we're at checkers and stuff, Nintendo is king of that. Nintendo is good doing that.
Right.
So yes, there's not like other options in order to do chat and stuff. And sometimes you might want to turn your discussion into a podcast and literally talk like you guys are hanging out and recording. So yeah, you can let the world hear, or you can have a collection and be like, what if someone passed away and you want to hear their voice? You have it recorded and you can hear it and be like, man, those are some good times. You can't really do that much with chat. Maybe with Twitch, if you download it and put it on YouTube, yeah. But it's just like, there's different ways and methods, and I think people want Nintendo literally to come out to be like, today's expectations of what online is. And it's just like, you got to realize Nintendo's a Japanese company and they do different stuff the way that they do here in America.
I just think that Nintendo needs to, and I'm not saying like that online is bad or anything, but also too, example, I wouldn't be talking to you if it wasn't for the internet. So that type of connection that you can have with people can also be done online, but if they don't put a main focus on it and everything, like if they don't make it a point to get it better sooner, they're going to get left in the dust to when people want to do that online and they just go, wow, I can't do X, Y, or Z. Eventually Nintendo will get there.
And Nintendo will get there. And I'm like, for $20 for a whole year, you're not
price of it, like, it is priced appropriately. No, I am not shitting on that whatsoever. They did a good job with that. Like, the price point of what they're doing is good. It's just weird, certain things, like how, man, like the voice chat thing, the cloud save thing, the digital license thing, like, those are just weird things that I just look at and go, like, what was the thought process behind that? Like, what was the thought process behind, like, the cloud save thing? Because,
I think it's because with some people, when you're saving the game, it's on a cartridge compared to it being saved on the CD, installing on your system.
Right.
In a sense. Because and you kind of got to think that, look at Nintendo, how they looked at Microsoft's 360s messed up with their hard drive thing. Like, you paid $100 to get 12 gigs or whatever, and Nintendo was smart to be like, hey, let's put this on a micro SD card. Okay, cool, you can save your data. Also, you know what, let's just give you guys an external hard drive to save more data, and up to 2 terabytes.
Right. No, like I said, everybody's like, Nintendo's starting to get to certain points where now, like I said, the micro SD stuff, being better with third-party controllers and stuff, like Nintendo's getting to certain places. I just think the one thing they should start focusing on is the online part, because if they don't, they're going to get left behind real quick.
And I think within next year, there's going to be updates, and they're going to improve the online. They're going to be like, we hear you guys loud and clear. We are working to make it better. Just continue to give us time, and let our team of engineers work on it so it can get there. I mean, I think they probably feel like if something doesn't tax the system so that you have a better experience with your gameplay, Nintendo's just like, if it's less cost efficient, they would go and do what they could,
right,
and not be able to match. Because don't forget, you can't chat on Xbox if you don't have batteries in your controller. You can't. I mean, come on. Who got to connect?
a lot of people did when they first bought an Xbox. That was the only way to get it.
Exactly, and they discontinued that. So it's just like you can't really chat on Xbox unless you make sure that you have your batteries and your thing is connected to the controller. That's the only way that you can really chat. Yeah, right. The option is there. It's easier to do. Yeah, same thing with PS4. If your controller is out, and you literally have to adjust some stuff. Like my headset, like if I want both people if I want people to hear in both ears, it's gonna play the system's music and games. So now I gotta cut all of that out in order to hear you.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, to be honest though, on how Sony does their things, I have a PlayStation, but I actually let the PlayStation Plus lapse just because I wasn't playing much online with it. Like, I just think now though.
And that's the crazy thing. It's just like, how people gonna get on Nintendo about their online stuff and they land on everybody else's online laps because they're not playing it.
Oh no, I personally am not I didn't buy Nintendo's though either. Only thing I'll say is that if Nintendo is putting money behind it though, they'll start making it better. Because when it's free, they don't care. Like they're just like, whatever, here's what you get for free. Now that there's money behind it, they will.
They will.
If
that's the NES games, come on, adults. Y'all are bad at NES games. Don't act like you're not. I'm good at NES games. I can still beat Double Dragon and Double Dragon 2.
So
the Legend of Zelda 2 though, F that game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, they get hard just a little bit. So as you were progressing though with your gaming history and everything, like you went through, you had Nintendo, but then was there ever a point in time when you didn't have? Because it sounds like you had pretty much everything. Like you just kind of played everything, right?
Yeah. Going out of Nintendo, I think it was the TurboGrafx 16 because it was a system that nobody in my area had.
Right.
So it was a new experience of, playing the game. And it was just like, I loved the Hue cards and it was just like, oh, this is kind of a cool system to look at. And then it had auto, not auto, but dang it, like when you hold the button down and it just does attacks, rapid fire. It had that. So it was just like, it just felt new. And plus their games was cheap. So I was just like, oh, $20, $10 for a Hue card game. Yeah. So I went outside of that. And I think when it came to the N64, I of course was big into RPGs, Chrono Trigger and stuff, and I had the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, but I was into SquareSoft still, and I had to play Final Fantasy VII.
I was gonna say like that was the only sad part is like when it got to the 64, how they lost so many third-party developers and like how PlayStation scooped them all up, especially if you were an RPG fan. Like, not saying the 64 was a sad console for it, but you had Zelda, but then like all of the other main RPGs that people think of that era were all PlayStation. Like 90% of them. And
the sad thing about it is that 75% of the RPGs were garbage.
Well, I mean, there was just so many. I think it was just because there was just so many coming out, though. I mean, it was just flooding the market with so many different RPGs. And I mean, everybody will have the one that they like, but like, there was just a ton that were coming out. Like, I remember just so many of them, like so many RPGs coming out for PlayStation. It was insane.
Yes.
But like I said, 64 was kind of like, I felt bad because like all of a sudden 64 felt like it just wasn't getting it. Super Nintendo, like look at Super Nintendo and Genesis. Genesis was a nightmare if you liked RPGs. Like all of your good RPGs were on Super Nintendo. And then it's like, if you wanted to continue down that road, you're like, cool, man, I'm going to get a 64. And then like, all the Square stuff came out on PlayStation, which Square was producing so much at the time, which is insane to think about, by the way. Like, how many games Square was putting out on PlayStation back then was nuts.
But how many of the Square games were successful on PlayStation 1?
True.
And when of course, at that, like I said, when you're in that time, of course, I was getting both N64 games and I was getting PlayStation games. And, I didn't have to deal with the loading. I was the one that had to literally turn my PlayStation 1 upside down to play it. And I was just like, I had to buy a memory card. I'm like, is this the future? I'm like, I would take the N64 over the PlayStation 1 anytime. As much as I love Final Fantasy 7 and 9 and some of the other games on PlayStation 1, I have to risk getting my game scratched to play because I had to turn it upside down.
Right.
And even when they went the STEM version, I had to turn it upside down.
That's crazy.
And it was just like, you know what? If I could put a game in on my N64 and play it right away, I'm good to go.
Yep. There's no, I mean, again, like, and 64 had good games. It just depends, like I said, on the genre you were looking at. Because, like, example, shooters on the 64 were better. Because, like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, like they didn't have those types of games or types of shooters that had that caliber on PlayStation. Sorry, the wrestling games were better on 64 than they were on PlayStation.
Yes. SmackDown vs. Raw on PlayStation 2 was good because I like the custom creation.
Oh, I'm talking about just like original PlayStation. Like, like just that era. But then like it was like if you like RPGs, like you liked PlayStation more. If you liked a certain games. Survival horror games, stuff like that. Yeah. There was just like, that was the one console generation that was like, I thought super divided as far as like, really depending on the genre of what you liked, you were very much into one console over the other.
I would say this. If you like the Final Fantasy 2's Final Fantasy games from Square Enix, Final Fantasy 8 was a mess. And you like Capcom Breath of Fire 3 and you like Konami Suikoden, you were set. Sony could not produce an RPG for the life of it. Y'all want to go play in Beyond the Beyond and spend 5 hours in the first half of the game where one of your characters is poisoned and you got to do on a quest to get him unpoisoned? Like, y'all want to go do all of that? And I can understand that Final Fantasy VII was a big thing for RPGs, but you cannot deny for a system that people were just like, well, the N64 wasn't great. Super Mario 64 changed the 3D genre in total. Ocarina of Time not only changed introduced open world games, but it brought in the Z-Lite target that you still have in modern games today. Right. There's a lot of successes on the N64 that sometimes doesn't get credit, but it's so historic that some of the stuff that they did, you would not be doing in a modern game.
That's true. No, like I said, Mario 64 was still better than any platformer on PlayStation, period. But like I said, also too, games like Resident Evil, like, weren't happening. Metal Gear Solid was not happening on 64. So I think, like, again, just depending on the type of game you liked and everything. But there's, I mean, look at the storytelling though in Metal Gear. Like,
yes,
that's insane. Like, that storytelling in Metal Gear and the level of characters and stuff in that game were amazing. You could say Final Fantasy stuff, but like that game not being a big RPG or whatever, that just being like that action genre, like that. The thing is, every single console out there though has games that are genre defining and things like that. So I mean, you can always run into that. As far as it goes, I have one question I usually ask: what is the worst game you bought with your own money?
What is the worst game that I bought with my own money? Oh, easy. Grand Theft Auto 5.
What? What?
Mm-hmm.
Explain why.
Grand Theft Auto 5 is horrible in controls, horrible in game and writing and character development, horrible in its driving mechanics. It's very forgettable. It did nothing for the open world genre like Sleeping Dogs has done, and you pretty much could just see the blueprint of what they did with Grand Theft Auto 3 and 4 in this game. Rockstar is it's very mediocre to me. That Rockstar would just slapdash a game like this, regardless if they have 400 employees making this game, and it just feels this terrible. It literally feels bad. If I'm going 15 miles per hour, just starting up, and I hit a bump and my car explodes before the mission start, that's a problem. 5 times over. If the fly mechanics is worse than the gameplay in E.T. for the Atari 2600, that's a problem. And Rockstar games gets a pass for a lot of stuff, but Grand Theft Auto 5 was terrible in every aspect. And the only reason why I bought that game is so I could get a $40 gift card to buy Wind Waker HD for the Wii U. That's the only reason. I literally spent 2.5 hours installing Grand Theft Auto 5 on my PlayStation 3. The game had to install on the system, and then it had to actually install the whole game.
Dude, I don't even know what to say right now.
You'll be fine. Grand Theft Auto 5 is one of the worst games that I brought.
Oh
and
my God.
I literally do not find a reason to really go back. It literally have not offered anything. You can see some stuff in Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a way better game than Grand Theft Auto 5. I would give it that. But Grand Theft Auto 5 is at the bottom of the barrel of open world games. And
Hideo Kojima said he was jealous he could never make an open world as good as Grand Theft Auto 5.
Because Hideo Kojima knows how to make a better game than Grand Theft Auto 5.
He said after he played the open world part of Grand Theft Auto 5, Hideo Kojima straight said, I can never make a good open world game like this.
Right, because he could make a better game than Grand Theft Auto 5.
Wow.
And
I did not expect that answer.
It's called Snatcher on the Sega CD. It's called Metal Gear Solid for the PlayStation 1. And some of the other games that he has done. Those are way better games than Grand Theft Auto 5.
Wow. Well, I didn't expect that answer. Again, everybody has their own opinion. Everybody's gonna...
I'm gonna say this. Because it's Rockstar and they sold much, and because people were doing cheat codes in the past games, that's the only reason why Grand Theft Auto 5 has sold. When has anyone talked about the story or any impact that Grand Theft Auto has done? Because you could say, well, Grand Theft Auto 3, and I'm like, Ocarina of Time came out before Grand Theft Auto. So that was more open world. That was more open world, but it didn't have consequences that Grand Theft Auto 3 had. And it didn't need no cheat to make the game fun. If you got to start using cheat codes to make a game fun, that means you have a problematic design.
I had a lot of fun with Grand Theft Auto 5. I didn't use any cheats. And the story of it...
And that's completely fine. Once again, how many people were talking about the story of Grand Theft Auto 5? Because I can tell you this, would you put Wind Waker versus Grand Theft Auto 5, which has a better experience?
But also experience is based off of completely each person. Sometimes experience is based off of story, sometimes based off of choice, sometimes based off of... Some people feel visually a game is better because of that they think visuals make the game better.
And when has anyone spoken any about that for Grand Theft Auto 5 compared to what they speak about Wind Waker HD or Wind Waker, The Legend of Zelda?
Grand Theft Auto 5's open world is insanity. It's huge. It's vast. It's detailed. It's beautiful.
And how many buildings can you go into Grand Theft Auto 5? You got a big city, and the only place I could do is go get clothes, ammo, and a haircut.
Do you realize how big that game is? And how, example, Grand Theft Auto Online is greater than Grand Theft Auto Online is greater than any online game that Nintendo could ever think of.
And that's completely fine. That's completely fine.
It's just, again, each person's different though. You're basing it off of story and being able to go in buildings, whereas some people are looking at.
I am basing it off of that, but I am basing it also off of gameplay and stuff that I have seen done better in a game.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, like I said, when I think of games that are towards the worst games I've ever bought, I can't say Grand Theft Auto 5 is near that list at all.
Grand Theft Auto 5 is at the bottom of the barrel. And I actually got an upset comment. And this is probably going to jump into why I wrote a blog on games.
let's get into that real fast. Let's get into that.
So yes, I wrote a blog called I Despise the Xbox 360. And this is back, I think, early 2006, 2007, or whenever I think there was the fourth version, or the third or fourth version of the 360 came out.
Okay. And
I went on this thing about just I despise it because for you to be one of the leading consoles, and this is probably also during the Wii era, for you to be on the leading console of generation, how in the world do you have 4 versions of the same system and majority of them fail? You change the chip up so many times and yet it still fails. Never. I have problems with the PlayStation 1 turning it upside down. I completely understand that. But when in the world, when people have to somehow do a trick of wrapping a towel around a system, after you paid $400, you have a spotty warranty, and you come up with a new version of it, still have problems. You come with another version of it, you still have problems. At the ending of the Xbox 360, with the Xbox 360 Slim, I think that was the, or Elite, or one of them, I think it was the Slim. The final version was the actual definitive version of this game. So you mean to tell me out of $1,600 plus, having this system, your console works? Not speaking about your games, speaking about your console. I have never in my console generation have ever had a system fail that bad. There is no way that I would be spending any money to Microsoft to play Wheel of Fortune and spin the wheel to see what I'm going to land on when I buy your console. I love my PlayStation 3 Slim. My Blu-ray, use a Blu-ray player, played a lot of great Sony games on it. Love my Wii. Still love my Wii to this very day. Love my Wii U still to this very day. I would never touch the 360 generation console ever. I have an Xbox One. I do have some 360 games on it. Why? Because the Xbox One is reliable. So I wrote this blog, put it on there, and one of the people were going at me, and I was just like, I find this very interesting. I'm going to just sit here, eat my soup, and just enjoy the comment section. And one of the members just like, well, I find this kind of very harsh. And they had it where they had blogs of the week. They had like top 5 blogs of the week. Mm-hmm. I ended up being like in 4 or 5 of them. That one made it.
Nice.
And people saw it and flipped out. And I was just like, I have arrived.
And you said one of them was one of the guys from EGM?
Yeah, Damien something. He used to write on EGM, and then he went to GameSpeak when One Up closed and stuff. And so with Dan Shu and everything. So he was just like, I find this kind of harsh. I was just like, but I find this more. If you find it harsh, that's fine, because it's reality. And you as a website have people post stories about their problems with the Xbox 360 continuously. Right. Just because you enjoy Gears of War, that's fine. But you can't play Gears of War if you own your 4th Xbox 360 and it breaks down again.
True. Again, everybody had different experiences, because I know people that had a launch 360 and never broke. I did have to go, I think I was like 2, but I also got mine replaced. Like I didn't ever have to pay for it. Obviously, Microsoft learned that shit with the One, because I've had 4. I have currently in my home 4 Xbox Ones. One of them being my day one console.
I still have my day one.
Yep, I got the day one edition, and it still works fine.
Well, I have a one, but I have the old version, but it's not a day one of it.
But no, like, I mean, they learned. What's funny is, like, the Xbox One, the first one that came out, was so goddamn big. Like, it was just so big because they didn't want to have that problem again. And then people made fun of it because it was so big. And then, I'm not kidding you, the Xbox One S and X are just gorgeous. Like, the design of them,
Can I tell you, I love the Xbox One original's design over anything PlayStation 4 is.
The PlayStation 4 it's not terrible. It's just weird.
The Pro
is
like
ridiculous.
The Pro looks like a Kit Kat bar.
Yeah, it does. The Pro is ridiculous. The Pro's like, let's just make it extra. I'm like, yeah, that looks weird. No, but like the OG Xbox One, it was cool. It was just really big. It was just really big. But no, with the S and the X.
Yes. The S looks, I have the S.
Is ridiculous. It looks so nice.
S is sexy.
Yeah, it looks. Microsoft finally got their hardware division down, and they got design down and all that. So
I can't wait. Next year I'm going back to Ohio because my friend, he has the 1X. I call it the OX. He has the OX, and I'm just like, I want to see some stuff running on here. I
Red Dead 2. Red Dead 2 4K is pretty ridiculous. So.
Yeah, it looks good. I would give it that. As for the game of Red Dead, it's better. Like I said, it's better than Grand Theft Auto 5, but to me personally, it's not game of the year. I don't think
I to be honest, I haven't played enough of it to say so either. I actually haven't had a lot of time to play games lately, period. But, it's funny because South Park made fun of like, you're not even out of the snow level. And I'm like, I just got out of the snow level. Like, I just did. Like, I just haven't had time to play games, man. That's what happens when you have a full-time job and adults and adult things to do and shit. So that happens. But, if people wanted to check out any of the things that you do on the internet, where would they go?
Everybody sit back because I got a long list.
There you go. Let's go.
Okay. So on Twitter, you guys can find me at that retro code. You also can find me on my own podcast, Optional Opinion. It's on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, and TuneIn, and other podcast apps. And what Optional Opinion is that I bring up topics that we normally don't talk in the video game industry or communities, and I give my opinion about it, but also get some options to it to help solve it and stuff. I'm also part of Nerds Gone Rogue Radio, ngrradio.com. Me and my friends there, we host many podcasts and shows. We have Nerds Gone Rogue. We have the B-side. Nintendo Pod Block is our Nintendo podcast that I do. Arsenal X is my Xbox podcast that we do, and Nerds Gone Platinum is our Sony show. You can find us on YouTube on Nerds Gone Rogue for YouTube, or Arsenal X, or Nintendo Pod Block, or Nerds Gone Platinum. We all have our own channels and stuff. You can catch shows like Pod and Play, Nindy Showcase, Squad Goals, Royale with Cheese, which is our Battle Royale show and stuff like that. You can also check on ngrradio.com that I do a series called The Beauty of Video Games. It's a 3-week series where I'll talk about the positivity and the beauty of video games that we love and enjoy. This year, I did the art of the character, where I'll talk about art style, different art styles that we love, and different characters and how they work well together. You can also check out my blog called The Moment at skirmishfrogs.com, SKIR Skirmish Frogs. You'll be able to find out. Sorry, I don't feel like spelling it out. Where I talk about of how old video game and how it plays a part in my life. Also check out World 101 podcast at shoutengine.com. I do that co-hosted with Larry Giver and our other friends, where it's kind of like a regular community hangout podcast where we talk about what we playing and what's in the news and do things like that. That's pretty much what you guys can find me there. I am on Twitch at the Lyrical One. I'm going to be jumping back into my Let's Learn series. And what Let's Learn is that I play a game and kind of talk about the mechanics that is well known for that series, so people can learn about it and stuff. And you guys could find me pretty much. If you guys find me on Twitter at that retro code, then you can find what I am on each respectable system.
Yep. I'll have links in the show notes for all of that he just mentioned, so that way you can check out any of the things he does and everything. So, dude, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for sharing all of your stories with me, man. I really do appreciate it.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right, and again, thank you, Edward, for being on the show. Again, if you want to check him out on Twitter, go ahead and follow him at That Retro Code. Of course, you could also, I'll have links in the show notes for his podcast and his Twitter, so that way you can check out all of the things that he does. Again, if you guys want to be on the show just like he was, go ahead and send me a tweet at MitchPower1116 on Twitter, or at the podcast Twitter page, which is at GUG Podcast on Twitter. We also have a Facebook group. Just search up Growing Up Gaming on Facebook, as well as a YouTube channel, GUG Podcast. Search it in the search bar. You can find all of the episodes there in, I wouldn't say glorious video format, because it's just the audio on the splash screen, but hey, maybe at work it's easier to watch on YouTube. So hopefully you guys are checking it out all over the place. Again, feel free to leave me a review on iTunes, subscribe to me on YouTube, likes, videos, all the positive things that people help to help make sure the show gets shared. I definitely share it with friends, because that helps get the word out, and the more people hear the show, the more people want to be on, and I'd be glad to hear everybody's story. So again, thank you guys so much for listening. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you guys next week with another new episode. See ya.